This is the screen that users see when they log into the application. Here on the left is the navigation menu. In this moment, we are viewing the default navigation menu that was devised for the administrators, who need to be able to see every component on every kind of card. However, since every CMDBuild user can be associated with one or more roles, it is possible to define for each role a custom menu in which you can edit easily the available folders, add new folders, or hide them, in order to create menus that are adequate for the efficiency of every type of user profile. The first section of the menu deals with and includes the data related to the employee's details. The employees can be divided into internal employees or external employees, and every employee has a reference to an organizational unit. As you can see here, this is a drop-down list that allows me to choose among the cards available in the class of the organizational units. If you want to navigate in the data model, this tab, called Relations, will be very useful. Indeed, I can see that this selected employee, for example, has these three assets and belongs to this organizational unit. If I select this green arrow, I'll move the card of the selected organizational unit so that I can view its data. I can also go back. In fact, from the tab Relations of the organizational unit, I can view all employees' data belonging to it and then get back to the employee from which I started. The tab Detail is useful for having a more detailed view of the cards related to the one selected. Therefore, from here, I can edit the data of the hardware assigned to the selected employee without having to move to the classes appointed to the management of this type of data. Instead, I can do it on the fly without moving from the employee's card. With regard to these classes of the employees in the organizational units, it is possible to insert the data directly in these classes, or import data from systems such as Active Directory. The second part of the menu includes physical locations. In particular, there are 3 classes available to register every building of my company with their related floors and rooms. For example, this first building that we inserted includes 3 different floors, and through the tab Relations, I can move to the specific card of a floor. There is the possibility that you don't need to localize an asset at room level detail. If you don't have to arrive at this level, it is also possible to register just the buildings in case you don't need to insert into CMDBuild all the rooms of every building. Particularly interesting is this report that presents a summary of the assets available in each room of each building. Here you can see that for this building we have the list of its floors, the list of rooms for each floor, and then, for each room, there's a summary of the data of the assets available in that room. This is just a sample of a report. The report can be then saved as a PDF or directly printed, but this is indeed just a sample report, since reports can then be easily edited through the free application iReport. The third section of the menu concerns the purchases. In particular, there are the records related to the suppliers and the supplier's employees. The class purchase order is very important. This class assumes a particularly important role within the asset management process. Since that process, by reading automatically the data from these classes, is able to lead the user with the creation and the insertion of the new assets received after a purchase without manually inserting all data, but through a guided procedure. The part of the data model related to the configuration items starts here. The configuration items are modeled through a hierarchical structure that starts from the generic CI, which then specializes in hardware, software instance, and service. The hardware then specializes in other categories and so on down to the leaf nodes of this hierarchy. Let's start, for example, with the section related to the workplaces. In this section, there are the computers, which by default include data related to desktop computers, notebooks, and mobile devices. Furthermore, there's the class used to manage the software which is installed on the PCs, and then the subfolder where all peripherals that can be connected to the PCs are registered. In this section, there are also two reports. The first one is the report called Mtbf, which, reading the data related to the incidents inserted into the system, displays the mean time between the breakdowns of each asset belonging to a certain category. So, it can be very useful if you want to gather statistical data related to the assets, which are mainly subject to breakdown. Another report available in this section is an inventory report. This report prints the list, sorted by category, of all the assets present in the category Workplaces, providing also the link that allows you to move the selected card. A very important feature of CMDBuild is the automatic registration of all changes made on the data cards. The previous versions, that is, the whole history of each record, can be viewed from this tab, History. For example, if we modify the code of this PC and click on Save, we'll see that in the History tab, a new row is automatically created. In particular, The History tab shows that the first version of data I can consult. So, the version with the code ending in 10 was created on this date and had been valid until this date. Instead, since the moment I clicked on Save, the modified attribute is highlighted in green, and I also know that this administrator has modified this attribute. This historical documentation of data is important first of all because in this way the data cannot be lost. Furthermore, you can go back in time and view the situation of the assets at a certain date. For example, I can launch this report specifying as execution time, today midnight, and view the situation of the assets in that very moment. In this section, there's also a dashboard including various charts which can be easily modified through a user interface and be customized. They provide a list of assets according to their availability. Their category, their status, and their age. We have already analyzed the part of workplaces and client software, so we can now move on to the infrastructure section. The main class of this section is the servers. They are grouped into physical and virtual servers. Physical servers have a physical location and particularly useful information about them regarding the server installation in the racks. In particular, for this server, you can see the information related to the rack where it is installed, the unit where it is installed, the fact that it fills the whole length of the rack, and that it covers 2 units. By gathering all the information registered in these classes, we can print a report like this, which lists all the racks, and for each rack it generates an image of the situation about the installation of the servers on its units. In this way, I don't have to physically get up from my desk to go to the data center to check what slots are free on a certain rack, but I can consult this report that gives me an immediate overview regarding the installation situation. On the contrary, virtual servers haven't got any physical location, but they report the information related to the execution cluster. Furthermore, the class of virtual servers, as well as the class of clusters and their network interfaces, can be automatically populated by importing data from VMware. There are also other additional classes, such as the one for network devices, which can contain switches and routers, storage devices, and the list of available racks. Let's move now to the network section. There are 3 classes available to record the various networks. For each network, I can insert the related IP range, also the class of network interfaces, which can be managed and controlled through the two processes of IP address management and wiring management. These two processes are indeed two wizards allowing insertion of data related to IP addresses. Network interfaces and wirings existing between the devices. In the folder Software, there are various subclasses based on the type of software that we want to record. There's a class called Software Catalog where I can register all types of the available software instances. This class is very interesting also in case you are using the connector with OCS inventory, since it is able to create, also through this attribute identifying pattern, a whitelist of the software types that have to be imported from the OCS inventory. Finally, there is also a class to keep track of all purchased licenses and to check any possible expiration date. Furthermore, there's a group of classes for the assets regarding telephony. At this point, we have concluded the section related to the classes which are useful to manage the physical items of my IT infrastructure inventory. The Service Desk folder is instead dedicated to IT processes. There are incident, request management, and change management processes. Each process has a related report, such as the reports of all open processes, of average closing times, or of the dashboard, where I can view the data from the open incidents or on all incidents executed in a certain period. Furthermore, there's this management process, a process supporting IT processes. This can be used to send notices in case the process execution is delayed and the arranged SLAs are not observed. There is a dashboard allowing you to view the situation of delays with respect to the SLAs, and the knowledge base class, which is populated during the process's execution and can be used to find solution to incident processes. Finally, there is a subfolder including some configuration parameters of IT processes and libraries of work orders for the change and request processes. Let's move on now to the services catalog. All services are grouped in technical and business services. Each service can be linked to one or more requests, which are then made available to the users in order to start the request fulfillment process. Request fulfillment processes will then automatically populate the service contracts class, creating new contracts in the case of a request to create a new service, or disabling services that were active before. Finally, there is the Services category class that is useful to hierarchically group services into categories and subcategories. There is also the section regarding the asset lifecycle management. In particular, there is the asset management process useful to manage the whole asset lifecycle. That is, from the moment when the goods are received, after the purchase, until their disposal, and a report regarding the open processes. Finally, this is the menu for the system administrators. There are also classes supporting the self-service portal, through which administrators can populate news, which is then published on the portal, defining also dates and publication periods, and inserting various useful links, which are always populated on the portal, and some system configuration parameters.